The hiking trail had been my idea. I'd suggested it over breakfast that Sunday morning, watching the autumn sun paint golden streaks across our kitchen table. "Let's go to Raven's Peak," I'd said to my husband Marcus. "We haven't been there in years. Remember how much we used to love that trail?" Marcus had looked up from his newspaper, his reading glasses perched on his nose. At 62, he was still handsome. Silver hair, strong jaw, the kind of face that aged well. "That's a great idea, Helen. We could use some fresh air." Our son Daniel had been there too, visiting for the weekend from the city. At 34, he'd grown into a successful man, or so we thought. Investment banking, expensive suits, a downtown condo. He'd barely looked up from his phone when I mentioned the hike. "You guys go ahead," he'd said. "I've got some work to catch up on." "Daniel, you work too much," I'd chided gently. "Come with us. When's the last time we did something as a family?" He'd hesitated, his fingers pausing over his phone screen. Something flickered across his face, an emotion I couldn't quite read. Then he'd smiled, that charming smile that had gotten him out of trouble since he was 5 years old. "You're right, Mom. Let me just send a few emails and I'll be ready." Now, 3 hours later, I stood at the edge of Raven's Peak, looking down at the dizzying drop below. 200 feet of sheer cliff face, ending in jagged rocks and churning water. The view was breathtaking. Mountains stretching to the horizon, the valley spread out below like a patchwork quilt. "Careful, honey," Marcus said, his hand warm on my shoulder. "Don't get too close to the edge." I smiled at him. 40 years of marriage, and he still worried about me like I was fragile. "I'm fine. It's beautiful up here." I'd forgotten how beautiful. Daniel stood a few feet away, his phone out, ostensibly taking photos. But I noticed he kept glancing at us, then at his phone, then back at us. His jaw was tight, his shoulders tense. "Daniel, are you okay?" I asked. "You seem distracted." "I'm fine, Mom," but his voice had an edge to it I didn't recognize. "Are you sure? You've been acting strange all morning." He pocketed his phone and turned to face us. And that's when I saw it. Something in his eyes that made my blood run cold. A hardness, a determination, a look I'd never seen on my son's face before. "We need to talk," he said. Marcus squeezed my shoulder. "About what, son?" "About what you know. About what you're planning to do with that information." My heart started beating faster. The conversation we'd had with Daniel last week, the documents we'd found in his study while watering his plants, the bank statements, the forged signatures, the evidence of embezzlement that totaled over $3 million. "Daniel," I said carefully, "we told you we weren't going to turn you in. We told you we'd help you fix this, return the money, make things right. You think I believe that?" His laugh was bitter. "You think I'm going to trust that you won't change your minds? That you won't decide your precious moral code is more important than protecting your own son?" "We are protecting you," Marcus said, his voice firm, "by helping you do the right thing before this gets worse, before someone else discovers what you've done." "The right thing." Daniel spat the words like they tasted bad. "Do you know what happens to people like me in prison? Do you know what my life would become?" "It doesn't have to come to that," I said, taking a step toward him. "Daniel, please. We love you. We want to help you." "Stop," he said sharply. "Don't come any closer." That's when I noticed his hands. They were shaking, and his eyes. God, his eyes looked wild, desperate. "Daniel, what are you doing?" Marcus's voice had changed, taken on a note of alarm. "What I have to do." Daniel moved toward us, and instinctively we stepped back, closer to the edge. "I'm sorry. I really am, but I can't let you ruin my life. I can't let you take everything I've built." "Daniel, stop this," I pleaded. "You're scaring me." "Good. You should be scared, because I'm done being the disappointment, done being the son who never lived up to your expectations, done letting you control my life." "We never tried to control your life," Marcus said. We've always supported you, always believed in you." "Believed in me?" Daniel laughed again, that awful, hollow sound. "You believed in the version of me I showed you. The successful banker, the dutiful son. But you never really knew me, never understood what I was capable of." He was close now. Too close, and we were running out of room. Another few steps and we'd be at the cliff's edge. "Daniel, please," I whispered. "Don't do this. Whatever you're thinking of doing, don't. We can figure this out. We can—" "There's nothing to figure out. This is the only way." And then he moved. Fast. Faster than I would have thought possible. His hands came up, palms out, and he shoved. Hard. I felt Marcus's hand grab mine as we stumbled backward, felt the ground disappear beneath my feet, felt the sickening lurch of gravity taking hold. And then we were falling. The wind rushed past my ears, drowning out my scream. I caught a glimpse of Daniel's face above us, twisted with anguish and determination, and then he was gone, shrinking as we plummeted toward the rocks below. This is it, I thought. This is how we die, murdered by our own son. And then Marcus's voice, urgent in my ear, his lips close enough that I could hear him over the roar of the wind. "Pretend we're dead." Part 2. The landing. We hit water, not rock. The impact drove the air from my lungs, sent shockwaves of pain through my entire body. Cold engulfed me, murky and dark. I was tumbling, disoriented, unable to tell up from down. Then Marcus's hand found mine, squeezing tight, pulling. We broke the surface together, gasping. "Don't splash," Marcus hissed. "Stay quiet. Play dead." I understood immediately. If Daniel thought we'd survived, he'd find a way to finish what he'd started. Our only chance was to make him believe we were gone. The current was strong, pulling us downstream away from the base of the cliff. I let myself go limp, floating face down, turning my head just enough to breathe when I could. Beside me, Marcus did the same. The water was freezing, November cold. I could feel hypothermia setting in, my body starting to shake uncontrollably, but I forced myself to stay still, to let the river carry us. Above, I could hear Daniel's voice, distant and faint. Was he calling to us? Checking to see if we'd survived? I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was clear. Panic, maybe. Or fear. Or guilt. Good, I thought viciously. Let him be afraid. Let him think about what he's done. The current swept us around a bend, and suddenly Daniel's voice was gone. We were alone with the sound of rushing water and our own ragged breathing. "Marcus," I gasped when I was sure we were out of earshot. "Marcus, are you hurt?" "Bruised. Maybe some cracked ribs. You?" "The same. I think." "God, Marcus. Our son just tried to kill us." "I know." His voice was tight with pain and something else. Betrayal. Grief. "Keep moving. We need to get to shore before we freeze to death or drown." We swam, more like dragged ourselves, toward the bank. My limbs felt like lead, unresponsive. My clothes weighed me down, soaked and heavy. Every movement sent fresh waves of pain through my battered body. Marcus reached the shore first, pulling himself onto the rocky bank with a groan. Then he turned and hauled me up beside him. We collapsed together, shaking violently, our teeth chattering. "We need to get warm," Marcus said. "Hypothermia will kill us as surely as the fall would have." "Where are we?" I looked around. We were in a narrow gorge, steep walls on either side, the river rushing past. No sign of civilization, no sound except water and wind and our own breathing. Downstream from Raven's Peak, maybe a mile, maybe more. The current was fast. Marcus struggled to his feet, wincing. "There's a ranger station. East of here, I think, if we can make it there." "Daniel will be looking for our bodies," I said. "He'll call for help, report an accident. There will be search and rescue." "Exactly. Which means we can't let them find us alive. Not yet." I stared at my husband. "What are you saying?" I'm saying Daniel just committed attempted murder, and if he realizes we survived, he'll try again. He's desperate, Helen, and desperate people do desperate things. But he's our son. He pushed us off a cliff. Marcus's voice was hard. Whatever he was, whatever we thought he was, that person is gone. The man who did this is capable of anything. We need to be smart. We need to stay dead until we can figure out how to prove what he did. I wanted to argue, wanted to say that Daniel would never try again, that it had been a moment of panic, that our son, our baby, couldn't really want us dead. But I'd seen his face, seen the calculation in his eyes, heard the cold determination in his voice. Marcus was right. Daniel had made his choice. Now we had to make ours. The ranger station, I said. How far? In this terrain? With our injuries? 3, maybe 4 hours if we're lucky. I looked down at myself. My clothes were torn, muddy, soaked. Blood seeped from a gash on my arm. My left ankle throbbed with every heartbeat. Marcus looked worse. His face was already swelling, a deep cut across his forehead still bleeding. We look like hell, I said. We look like we fell off a cliff. Which we did. Marcus offered his hand. Can you walk? I tested my ankle. Pain flared, sharp and bright, but it held my weight. I can walk. Then let's go. Before Daniel comes looking. Before search and rescue starts combing the area. We moved slowly through the gorge, using trees and rocks for support. Every step was agony. My body screamed at me to stop, to rest, to give up. But fear drove me forward. Fear of my own son. How had it come to this? Where had we gone wrong? I thought back over Daniel's childhood, searching for signs we'd missed. Had he always been capable of this? Or had something happened to change him, to twist him into someone who could murder his own parents? Marcus, I said, as we struggled up a steep incline. Did you know? Did you see this coming? No, God, no. I thought he was just ambitious, driven. I never imagined. He trailed off. The money. The embezzlement. Do you think that was the first time? Or has he been doing this for years? I don't know, but we're going to find out. We're going to make sure he faces justice for what he's done. He tried to kill us. The words felt surreal. Impossible. Our own son tried to kill us. Marcus stopped, turned to face me. His eyes were red-rimmed, whether from the cold or from tears I couldn't tell. I know. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive him for that. But Helen, we have to survive this. We have to make it through. Because if we don't, he wins. He gets away with everything, the embezzlement, the murders he meant to commit. We can't let that happen. I nodded, swallowing past the lump in my throat. You're right. We can't let him win. We kept moving. Part 3. The ranger station. It took us 5 hours, not 4. By the time we stumbled out of the woods and saw the ranger station, a small log cabin with a green Forest Service truck parked outside, the sun was beginning to set. Orange and pink streaked the sky, beautiful and indifferent to our suffering. We must have looked like something from a horror movie, bloodied, bruised, hypothermic, stumbling like zombies. The ranger who answered our knock actually stepped back in alarm. Jesus Christ, what happened to you two? We fell, Marcus said. From Raven's Peak. We need help, and we need you to listen very carefully to what we have to say. The ranger, his name tag read J. Martinez, brought us inside, wrapped us in emergency blankets, started treating our wounds. He was young, maybe 30, with kind eyes and steady hands. I need to call this in, he said as he cleaned the gash on Marcus's forehead. Get you to a hospital. You're both showing signs of hypothermia and shock, and these injuries need proper medical attention. Wait, I said. Before you do that, you need to hear what happened. Martinez looked between us, frowning. You said you fell from Raven's Peak. That's a 200-foot drop. No one survives that. We did. We fell into the river, not onto the rocks. The current carried us downstream. Marcus's voice was steady, controlled. But we didn't fall by accident. We were pushed. Martinez's hands stilled. Pushed? By who? By our son. The words hung in the air. Martinez stared at us. Your son pushed you off a cliff? Yes. We discovered he'd been embezzling money from his company, millions of dollars. We confronted him, told him we wanted to help him make it right, and instead of accepting our help, he decided to kill us. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth, I said. Our son, Daniel Morrison, attempted to murder us this morning at approximately 11:30 a.m. at Raven's Peak. He pushed us off the cliff, presumably expecting us to die on impact or drown. We need you to contact the authorities, but we need you to do it carefully. Martinez sat back, studying us. Explain. If Daniel knows we survived, he'll try again, Marcus said. He's desperate. Cornered. He's already crossed the line to attempted murder. He won't hesitate to finish what he started. So what are you proposing? We need protection. We need to build a case against him. And we need to do it without him knowing we're alive. Martinez shook his head slowly. I'm a park ranger, not a cop. This is way above my pay grade. I need to call the sheriff's department, get you medical attention. Please, I interrupted. Just listen. Our son is probably at the peak right now, calling in our accident. He'll be playing the devastated son who watched his parents fall. Search and rescue will be mobilized. They'll look for our bodies. And when they don't find them, because we're here, alive, Daniel will start to wonder. He'll start to worry. And if he figures out we survived, we become targets again, Martinez finished. He ran a hand through his hair. Okay, let me think. You need medical attention. That's non-negotiable. But maybe we can do this quietly. I've got a friend, Sheriff's Deputy Chen. She's smart, discreet. Let me call her, explain the situation. Thank you, Marcus said. Martinez made the call, speaking in low tones in the corner of the cabin. I could hear fragments. Attempted murder. Their own son. Need to keep it quiet. While he talked, I looked at Marcus. Really looked at him. In the lamplight, I could see how close we'd come to death. The swelling around his eye, the cuts and bruises covering his face and arms, the way he held himself carefully, protecting his ribs. We're going to get through this, I said quietly. I know. But his voice was hollow. Marcus, talk to me. What are you feeling? He looked at me, and I saw the answer in his eyes before he spoke. Grief. Raw, terrible grief. I'm feeling like I don't know my own son. Like the boy I raised, the man I was proud of, never really existed. Like I've been living a lie for 34 years. We both have. I reached for his hand. But we're alive, Marcus. And we're going to make sure he faces justice. Justice. He laughed bitterly. What justice is there for a father whose son tries to murder him? Before I could answer, Martinez returned. Deputy Chen is on her way. ETA 20 minutes. She's bringing a doctor she trusts. Off the books. They'll treat you here, take statements, and we'll figure out next steps. Thank you, I said again. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get complicated. Your son, has he called in the accident? I don't know. Probably. Then search and rescue is already mobilized. They're looking for your bodies, and when they don't find them, questions will be asked. Let them look, Marcus said. The longer Daniel thinks we're dead, the safer we are. Martinez nodded slowly. Fair point, but eventually, the truth will come out. What happens then? Then we make sure our son pays for what he's done, I said. Part 4. The Investigation. Deputy Chen arrived exactly 20 minutes later, accompanied by Dr. Sarah Kim, a woman in her 40s with short black hair and a no-nonsense demeanor. Let me see them, Dr. Kim said without preamble. She examined us both thoroughly, cleaning wounds, checking for broken bones, monitoring our vital signs. The diagnosis: multiple contusions, possible cracked ribs for Marcus, a sprained ankle for me, mild hypothermia for both of us, and shock. You need to be in a hospital, she said flatly. We can't, I replied. You could have internal bleeding, unseen injuries, complications from the hypothermia. You need CT scans, X-rays, proper monitoring. And if we go to a hospital, our son will find out we're alive, Marcus said, which puts us in immediate danger. Dr. Kim looked at Deputy Chen. This is insane. I know, Chen replied. She was a compact woman in her 30s with sharp eyes and a calm presence. But their concern is valid. If the son did what they claim, and I believe they're telling the truth, then he's dangerous, desperate, and they need protection. Can you keep us safe? I asked. Chen pulled up a chair, sat down across from us. Let me understand the situation. Your son pushed you off Raven's Peak this morning. You survived, but he doesn't know that. He's presumably called in an accident, and right now, search and rescue is looking for your bodies. Meanwhile, you want to stay dead while we build a case against him for attempted murder. Is that accurate? Yes, Marcus said. And you have evidence of his embezzlement? We took photos of the documents. They're on my phone. I gestured to my waterlogged clothes, which is somewhere at the bottom of the river. Great. Chen made notes. So we have no physical evidence, and the only witnesses are the two alleged victims who the world currently thinks are dead. We're telling the truth, I said sharply. I believe you. But believing you and proving it in court are two different things. We need evidence. We need to build an airtight case, which means we need time. How much time? Days, maybe a week. We need to investigate his finances, track the embezzled money, find proof that he actually pushed you, security cameras, witnesses, anything. There was no one else on the trail, Marcus said. It's late season cold. Most hikers avoid Raven's Peak this time of year. Then we need the financial records. Where did you see these documents? In his apartment. He has a home office, filing cabinets, bank statements showing transfers to offshore accounts, forged signatures, falsified records. It's all there. Can we get a warrant? On what grounds? Two people who are supposedly dead say their son embezzled money? No judge will sign off on that. We sat in frustrated silence. Finally, Dr. Kim spoke up. What if you're not dead? We all turned to look at her. Explain, Chen said. What if they were found? Injured, hypothermic, but alive. Rescued by search and rescue, taken to the hospital, too traumatized to speak immediately. It would buy you time to investigate while keeping them under protection. The son would know they survived, Martinez pointed out. Yes, but he'd also know they're under observation. In a hospital, with security, he couldn't try again without being obvious. And meanwhile, the trauma story gives you cover to investigate him without him knowing. You say you're checking into the accident, looking for explanations. He'll think you're just being thorough. Chen leaned back, considering. It could work. But it's risky. If he panics, if he runs, we lose our shot at him. He won't run, I said. Not immediately. He'll want to play the grieving son, at least at first. Keep up appearances. That buys you time. And what if he tries to finish what he started while you're in the hospital? Then you catch him in the act, Marcus said. You'll be watching him, waiting for him to make a move. Using you as bait. Chen shook her head. I don't like it. Neither do I, Dr. Kim said. But it might be the only way. There's another option, I said slowly. An idea was forming, risky but potentially brilliant. What if we stay dead? Officially dead. But we feed information to you anonymously. Help you build the case without Daniel knowing we're involved. How would that work? You find our bodies, or you say you do, identifiable items, DNA evidence that could be us. You declare us dead. Daniel thinks he's gotten away with it. He relaxes, gets sloppy, and we work with you behind the scenes to gather evidence. Chen was shaking her head before I finished. Faking your deaths? That's complicated, legally questionable, and… Our son tried to murder us, Marcus interrupted. I think we're past worrying about legal complications. You should worry about them. If this goes wrong, if any evidence we gather gets thrown out because of how we obtained it, Daniel walks free. Is that what you want? Number. It wasn't what I wanted. I wanted my son in prison for what he'd done. I wanted justice, but I also wanted to be alive to see it. What do you recommend? I asked Chen. She was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Hospital, protection, investigation. We do this by the book. You tell your story, we check it out, we build a case. It's slower, it's riskier for you, but it's the only way to make sure we can actually prosecute him. And if he tries to kill us again? We'll have officers on your door 24/7. Cameras, security. He won't be able to get close. I looked at Marcus. He looked at me. 40 years of marriage meant we could have entire conversations with just a glance. He was asking, "What do you want to do?" I was answering, "I want our son to pay, whatever it takes." "Okay," Marcus said aloud, "we'll do it your way. But I want your word that you'll keep us safe, that you'll investigate him thoroughly, that you won't let him get away with this." "You have my word," Chen said. Dr. Kim stood. "Then let's get you to the hospital. You need real medical care, not my field medicine." Part 5. The performance. They found us at dawn, or rather, search and rescue found us in a carefully orchestrated discovery that Deputy Chen had arranged. We were hypothermic, injured, barely conscious, which wasn't hard to fake, given that we actually were hypothermic and injured. The story was simple. We'd been hiking at Raven's Peak, got too close to the edge, and fell. We'd miraculously survived the fall by landing in the river. The current had swept us downstream. We'd managed to drag ourselves to shore and make it to the ranger station, where we'd collapsed. No mention of Daniel, no mention of being pushed. Just a tragic accident with a miraculous survival. The ambulance ride to the hospital was a blur. IVS, warm blankets, concerned faces. Dr. Kim rode with us, having positioned herself as the first responder who treated us at the ranger station. At the hospital, we were separated. Marcus to one room, me to another. X-rays, CT scans, blood work. The full battery of tests for trauma patients. And through it all, I knew Daniel would be there soon. The hospital would have called him. Next of kin, emergency contact. He'd come running, playing the concerned son. The thought made me feel sick. I was in my hospital bed, warm finally, clean finally, when the door opened. A nurse peeked in. "Mrs. Morrison? Your son is here. Are you up for a visitor?" This was it. The moment I'd been dreading. "Yes," I said. "Send him in." Daniel entered, and I had to remind myself to breathe. He looked terrible, eyes red, face drawn, clothes rumpled. He looked like someone who'd spent the night in anguish. He was a better actor than I'd given him credit for. "Mom." His voice cracked. He rushed to my bedside, reaching for my hand. I forced myself not to flinch away. "Mom, oh my God, when you fell, I thought you were dead. I watched you go over the edge and I was sure—" "Daniel!" I squeezed his hand, fighting down the revulsion. "I'm okay." "We're okay." I called 911 immediately. I tried to get down to the river, but the terrain was too steep. Search and rescue said they searched all night but couldn't find you. I thought... He broke off, covering his face with his free hand. I watched him, studied him. Was any of this real? Did any part of him actually care that we'd survived? Or was he panicking inside, trying to figure out how to finish what he'd started? "What happened?" he asked. "The doctors said you fell." "How did you fall? You and Dad are always so careful." "I don't remember," I lied. One minute we were standing there, looking at the view. The next minute we were falling. It all happened so fast. "You don't remember anything else? Nothing before the fall?" Was that hope in his voice? Hope that we didn't remember him pushing us? "No, it's all a blur." He sagged in relief. Actually, sagged. And I knew. He was hoping we'd forgotten. Hoping the trauma had wiped out his crime. "I'm so sorry," he said. "I feel responsible. I should have stopped you from getting so close to the edge. I should have—" "Daniel, it's not your fault." The words tasted like ash. "It was an accident. These things happen. But if I'd been paying attention, The door opened, and Marcus was wheeled in, accompanied by another nurse. His eyes found mine immediately, and I saw the question there. Is he here? I gave the tiniest nod. Dad? Daniel released my hand and went to Marcus. Dad, thank God. When they said you were both alive, I couldn't believe it. It's a miracle. Daniel. Marcus's voice was flat. You're here. Of course I'm here. Where else would I be? My parents nearly died. I've been out of my mind with worry. Marcus stared at our son, and I saw the struggle in his face. The desire to accuse, to scream, to demand answers. But he held it together. We're fine, Marcus said. Banged up, but fine. The doctor said you have cracked ribs, and Mom's ankle is sprained, plus the hypothermia, the shock. You could have died. But we didn't, I said. We're lucky. So lucky. Daniel sat down between our beds, looking from one of us to the other. Do you remember what happened? Either of you? Not really, Marcus said, following my lead. We were at the peak and then we were falling. Everything else is foggy. The trauma can cause memory loss, Daniel said, a little too quickly. That's what the nurse told me. It's probably for the best. Remembering something that traumatic could make the recovery harder. Probably, I agreed. We sat in awkward silence. Daniel kept glancing at us, at the door, at his phone. Nervous energy radiated off him. I should let you rest, he finally said, standing. You need to recover, but I'll be back tomorrow. And if you need anything at all, just call me. We will, I said. He hugged me carefully, mindful of my injuries. Then he hugged Marcus. And then he left. The moment the door closed behind him, Marcus let out a shaky breath. That was the hardest thing I've ever done, he said. Sitting there, letting him touch me, pretending everything was fine when all I wanted to do was... I know. I reached across the space between our beds, and he took my hand. But we did it. We fooled him. He thinks we don't remember. Did you see his face when you said you didn't remember? He was relieved, genuinely relieved. He thinks he's gotten away with it. The door opened again, and Deputy Chen entered, dressed in plain clothes. She checked to make sure the hallway was empty, then closed the door. How did it go? He bought it, Marcus said. He thinks we have amnesia from the trauma. Good. That buys us time. Chen pulled up a chair. I've started looking into his finances. Got a warrant based on suspicious activity flagged by his bank. We should have access to his records by tomorrow. That fast? We got lucky. His bank's fraud detection algorithms had already flagged some of the transfers as suspicious. They were planning to investigate anyway. I just accelerated the timeline. Will you find enough to arrest him? I asked. For the embezzlement? Probably. For the attempted murder? That's trickier. It's your word against his. No witnesses. No physical evidence. A good lawyer could argue it was an accident, that you misinterpreted what happened. We didn't misinterpret anything, Marcus said harshly. He pushed us. I believe you. But I need to prove it. Which means I need to catch him doing something stupid. Trying to cover his tracks, maybe. Or dash. Or trying to kill us again. I finished. Chen nodded grimly. I've got officers posted outside your rooms, plain clothes. And cameras on all the entrances. If Daniel tries anything, we'll have him. You're using us as bait, Marcus said. I'm keeping you safe while building a case. There's a difference. Is there? Chen stood. Look, I know this is hard. I know you're scared and angry and betrayed. But you came to me for help, and I'm helping. Trust the process. Trust me. After she left, Marcus and I lay in our hospital beds, holding hands across the gap between them. Are we doing the right thing? I asked quietly. I don't know, but it's the only thing we can do. What if he tries again? What if Chen's protection isn't enough? Then we fight. We survive, just like we did at the peak. I closed my eyes, exhausted. My body ached. My heart ached more. Somewhere in this city, my son was walking around free, believing he'd gotten away with attempted murder, planning his next move. And we were here, broken and battered, waiting for him to make a mistake. I wasn't sure which of us was the hunter and which was the prey anymore. 3 days later, Deputy Chen arrived with news. "We've got him," she said without preamble. "At least for the embezzlement. $3,200,000 siphoned from his company's accounts over the past 18 months. Offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Fake invoices, forged signatures. It's all there." "Can you arrest him?" Marcus asked. "Already done. He's being processed downtown as we speak. But here's where it gets interesting. When we arrested him, he panicked, started trying to make calls, send messages. We seized his phone, and our tech guys found something." She pulled out her tablet, showed us a text conversation. Daniel to someone named M. They survived. "What do I do?" M's response: "Stay calm. Play the concerned son. We'll figure something out." Daniel: "What if they remember? What if they know I pushed them?" M: "Then we handle it. Like we discussed." Chen scrolled down. More messages, increasingly desperate. "Daniel, I can't do this anymore. I can't pretend. Maybe I should just confess." M: "Don't be stupid. You're in too deep. We both are. Just stick to the plan." "Who is M?" I asked. "Margaret Torres. Daniel's girlfriend, apparently. She works in the same firm. And according to these messages, she was in on the embezzlement. They planned it together." Marcus leaned forward, wincing at the pain in his ribs. "Does she know about the attempted murder?" "Look at this message, sent the night before your hike." Chen scrolled further. M to Daniel: "Are you sure about this? There has to be another way." Daniel's response: "There isn't. They know everything. If we don't act, we're both going to prison." I felt sick. This wasn't a moment of panic. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. Daniel had planned to kill us. He'd discussed it with his girlfriend. They'd strategized it. "That's premeditation," Marcus said, his voice hollow. "It is. Combined with your testimony about what actually happened at Raven's Peak, we have a strong case for attempted murder." "Will it hold up in court?" I asked. "With these messages?" "Yes. They establish intent, planning, motive. Add in your eyewitness testimony, and we've got him." "What about Margaret?" Marcus asked. "We're bringing her in for questioning. If she flips on him, agrees to testify in exchange for a reduced sentence, your case gets even stronger." I should have felt relieved. We had evidence. We had proof. Daniel would face justice. But all I felt was grief. Crushing, overwhelming grief for the son I'd lost. Or maybe for the son who'd never really existed. "When do you need us to give our statements?" I asked. "Our real statements about what happened." "Tomorrow, if you're up for it. We'll record everything, get it all documented. Then we'll formally charge Daniel with attempted murder." After Chen left, Marcus and I sat in silence. The weight of everything pressed down on us. The betrayal, the violence, the realization that our son had tried to kill us and had planned it in advance. "I keep thinking about when he was little," I said finally. "Remember when he was 5 and he fell off his bike? He scraped his knee so badly and he ran to me crying. I cleaned the wound, put a bandage on it, kissed it better. He looked at me like I was the most important person in the world, like I could fix anything." "I remember," Marcus said softly. "When did he stop seeing me that way? When did we become obstacles instead of parents?" "I don't know. Maybe it happened gradually, or maybe he was always capable of this and we just didn't see it." "I don't believe that. I can't believe we raised a monster." "We didn't raise a monster. We raised a boy who made choices, bad choices, evil choices. But those were his choices, Helen, not ours. How do you know? How do you know we didn't fail him somehow?" Marcus looked at me, his eyes red-rimmed. Because we loved him. We gave him everything. We supported him, encouraged him, believed in him. We did our job as parents. What he did with that, that's on him. I wanted to believe him, wanted to absolve us of responsibility, but the guilt gnawed at me anyway. What had we missed? What signs had we overlooked? Part 7. The Confrontation. The next day they brought Daniel to us. Not literally. He was in custody, in an interrogation room downtown. But Chen set up a video call, thinking it might help if we could see him when we gave our statements about what really happened. I wasn't sure I wanted to see him. Wasn't sure I could handle it. But I also needed to look him in the eye and tell him I knew, that I remembered, that he hadn't gotten away with it. The screen flickered to life. And there he was. My son. Wearing an orange jumpsuit, his hair disheveled, his face haggard. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. Mom? Dad? His voice cracked through the speakers. What's going on? Why am I talking to you through a video call? Why won't they let me see you in person? Because you tried to kill us, Marcus said flatly. Daniel's face went white. What? Number. No, that's... You said you didn't remember. You said it was an accident. We lied, I said. We remembered everything, Daniel. We remembered you pushing us off that cliff. We remembered the look in your eyes when you did it. No, he was shaking his head frantically. No, that's not what happened. You're confused. The trauma. Stop lying, Marcus interrupted. We know about the embezzlement. We know about Margaret. We know you planned this. We have your text messages, Daniel. We have proof. Daniel slumped in his chair, all the fight draining out of him. For a long moment, he just sat there, staring at nothing. Say something, I said. He looked up at the camera, and I saw tears on his face. I'm sorry. Sorry? Marcus's voice was incredulous. You tried to murder us and you're sorry? I panicked. I was scared. You found the money. You said you were going to help me fix it, but I knew. I knew you'd eventually turn me in. You'd decide that the right thing to do was to let me face the consequences. And I couldn't go to prison, Mom. I couldn't lose everything I'd worked for. So you decided to kill us instead? I asked. I didn't know what else to do. You backed me into a corner. You gave me no choice. We gave you every choice, Marcus said, his voice rising. We offered to help you. To stand by you while you made this right. You chose murder instead. I was desperate. So you pushed your own parents off a cliff? I thought it would be quick. Painless. I thought... He stopped, covering his face with his hands. I don't know what I thought. I wasn't thinking. I just knew I had to make it stop, had to make the problem go away. We weren't a problem, I said, my voice breaking. We were your parents. We loved you. I know. He was sobbing now, his whole body shaking. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wish I could take it back. I wish I'd never... But you can't take it back, Marcus interrupted. You made your choice, and now you have to live with it. What's going to happen to me? You're going to prison, Chen's voice came from off-screen. For embezzlement, definitely. For attempted murder, most likely. You're looking at 20 years minimum, Daniel. Probably more. No. Daniel looked at us desperately. Mom, Dad, please. You can drop the charges. You can tell them it was an accident. Please. I'm your son. I'm your only son. You can't let them do this to me. The audacity of it stole my breath. After everything he'd done, he was asking us to protect him, to lie for him, to let him get away with attempted murder. No, I said firmly. We won't lie for you. We won't protect you from the consequences of your actions. You tried to kill us, Daniel. You planned it. You discussed it with your girlfriend. You pushed us off a cliff and left us to die. And now you're going to face justice for that. But I'm your son. You stopped being our son when you decided we were expendable, Marcus said. The boy we raised, the man we thought you were, He's gone, if he ever existed at all. That's not fair. Fair? Marcus laughed bitterly. You want to talk about fair? Is it fair that we spent 34 years loving you, supporting you, sacrificing for you, and you repaid us by trying to murder us? Is that fair, Daniel? Daniel had no answer. He just sat there, crying, looking young and lost and broken. I felt a pang of sympathy, maternal instinct, I supposed, that couldn't be completely killed even by attempted murder. But I pushed it down. Marcus was right. Daniel had made his choices. Now he had to face them. I hope you get help in prison, I said quietly. I hope you figure out how you became someone capable of this. And I hope someday you understand what you've done, what you've destroyed. Mom. Goodbye, Daniel. I nodded to Chen, and she ended the video call. The screen went black, and just like that, it was over. Marcus reached for my hand, and I took it. We sat there together, two survivors of our son's betrayal, trying to figure out how to move forward. Part 8. The Trial. 6 months later, we sat in a courtroom and watched our son be sentenced. The trial had been brutal. Daniel's lawyers had tried everything, claiming we'd misunderstood his actions, that it was an accident, that he'd reached out to steady us, and we'd misinterpreted it as a push. They'd brought in expert witnesses who testified about trauma and memory, suggesting we'd reconstructed the events incorrectly. But the text messages had been damning. And Margaret Torres, facing her own charges for embezzlement, had agreed to testify. She'd told the court about their plan, about how Daniel had talked about eliminating the problem, about how he'd chosen Raven's Peak specifically because falls from there were usually fatal. The jury had deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts: embezzlement, 2 counts of attempted murder, conspiracy. Now Judge Patricia Hernandez looked down at Daniel from her bench, her expression grave. Mr. Morrison, you have been found guilty of embezzling over $3 million from your employer and attempting to murder your own parents. These are serious crimes that speak to a fundamental lack of character and conscience. Daniel stood with his lawyers, his head bowed. He'd lost weight during the trial, looked older, looked like a stranger. The court has considered the evidence, the testimony, and the impact statements from your victims. Your parents have described in detail the physical and emotional trauma you inflicted on them, the betrayal they felt, the grief of losing a son to his own greed and violence. I had written that statement, had spent days trying to put into words what Daniel had done to us, to our family, to our sense of safety and trust in the world. This court sentences you to 25 years in state prison for the attempted murders and an additional 7 years for the embezzlement and related financial crimes. These sentences will run consecutively. You will be eligible for parole after serving 20 years. 32 years. Daniel would be 66 years old when he got out, older than Marcus and I were now. I waited to feel something. Relief, maybe, or satisfaction. Justice served. But all I felt was tired and sad. So incredibly sad. Daniel turned to look at us one last time before they led him away. His eyes met mine, and I saw it all there: regret, fear, grief, shame. "I'm sorry," he mouthed. I didn't respond, just watched as the bailiffs escorted him out of the courtroom, out of our lives. Marcus squeezed my hand. "It's over." "Is it?" I asked. "Will it ever really be over?" He didn't have an answer. Part 9. Healing. We sold the house. Too many memories, too many ghosts. The kitchen where Daniel had eaten breakfast that last morning. The driveway where he'd loaded his hiking gear. The photos on the walls of a happy family that no longer existed. We moved to a small coastal town 3 hours away. Bought a cottage with a view of the ocean. Started over. It wasn't easy. The nightmares continued for months. I'd wake up falling, feeling the ground disappear beneath my feet, seeing Daniel's face above me. Marcus had them too. We'd wake each other up, hold each other until the fear passed. We went to therapy, individual and couples, worked through the trauma, the betrayal, the grief. Dr. Patricia Wong was patient with us, helping us understand that what we were feeling, the anger, the sadness, the lingering fear, was normal. That healing wasn't linear, that we might never fully get over what had happened. But you can learn to live with it, she said. You can integrate this experience into your lives without letting it define you. It took time. A lot of time. Marcus threw himself into woodworking, a hobby he'd always wanted to pursue. He built beautiful furniture, tables, chairs, bookshelves. He said it helped him feel like he was creating something good, something solid, after so much destruction. I started painting, watercolors mostly, seascapes and sunsets, peaceful scenes that were the opposite of the violence we'd experienced. Each painting was a small act of defiance against the darkness, a way of saying, you tried to destroy us, but we're still here, still creating, still living. We made new friends in our new town, people who didn't know our story, who saw us as just Helen and Marcus, not those people whose son tried to kill them. It was refreshing, healing, but we couldn't escape entirely. Every few months, reporters would call, wanting to do stories about our case. Parents survive son's murder attempt. Family betrayal. The Daniel Morrison story. We always declined. This wasn't entertainment. This was our life. Part 10. The letter. 2 years after the sentencing, I received a letter. It was from Daniel. Prison mail, forwarded to us by our lawyer. I stared at it for a long time before opening it, my hands shaking. Marcus came up behind me, saw what I was holding. Do you want to read it? I don't know. We could throw it away. You don't owe him anything. Not even the courtesy of reading his words. I know, but... I turned the envelope over in my hands. What if he needs to say something? What if this is part of his healing? What about your healing? Will reading this help you or hurt you? It was a fair question. Dr. Wong had warned us that Daniel might try to contact us eventually. She'd asked us to think about whether we wanted that contact, and if so, what boundaries we wanted to set. I need to read it, I decided. I need to know what he has to say. Marcus nodded. Then I'll be here. Whatever's in that letter, we'll deal with it together. I opened the envelope and pulled out several handwritten pages. Daniel's handwriting, familiar from years of birthday cards and school notes. Dear Mom and Dad, I don't expect you to respond to this letter. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect you to finish reading it. But I'm writing anyway because my therapist says I need to, and because there are things I need to say, even if you never hear them. I'm sorry. I know I said that at the trial, and I know the words feel empty by now, but I mean them. I am genuinely deeply sorry for what I did, not just because I got caught, not just because I'm in prison, but because I hurt you. I tried to kill you, my own parents. I spend every day trying to understand how I became someone capable of that, how the boy you raised turned into the man who pushed you off a cliff. My therapist says it was a combination of things, the pressure I put on myself to succeed, the lies I'd been telling for so long about the embezzlement, the fear of losing everything I'd built. But none of that excuses it. Nothing excuses it. The truth is, I'd lost myself long before that day at Raven's Peak. I'd become so focused on appearing successful, on maintaining the image of the perfect son with the perfect life, that I forgot who I actually was. I forgot what mattered. And when you discovered what I'd been doing, when my carefully constructed facade started to crumble, I panicked. I made the worst decision anyone could make. I tell myself that I wasn't thinking clearly, that I was in a state of panic and fear and desperation. But that's only partly true. Part of me knew exactly what I was doing. Part of me made a calculated decision that my freedom was worth more than your lives. And that's the part I can't forgive. I don't expect you to forgive me either. I've destroyed our family. I've destroyed your sense of safety. I've destroyed any love or trust you had for me. Those things can't be repaired. I know that. But I want you to know that I think about you every day. I wonder if you're healing. I hope you found peace. I hope you've built new lives that aren't haunted by what I did. And I want you to know that I'm trying to become a better person. Not for you. I know I've lost the right to do anything for you, but for myself, and for the other people I hurt with my actions. I'm taking classes here, working toward a degree in counseling. My therapist thinks I might be able to help other inmates someday, use my experience to help them understand the consequences of their choices before it's too late. It won't undo what I did. Nothing can undo it. But maybe it can mean something. Maybe I can keep someone else from making the same mistakes. I don't know if you'll ever want to see me again. If you never do, I understand. But if someday, years from now, you feel ready, if you want to talk, or if you just want me to listen while you tell me how much I hurt you, I'll be here. I love you. I know I have no right to say that anymore. I know love is supposed to mean protecting people, not trying to kill them. But despite everything, despite what I've done and who I've become, I still love you, and I'll regret what I did for the rest of my life. Your son, Daniel. I set the letter down, my hands trembling. Tears streamed down my face, whether from anger or grief or some combination of both, I couldn't tell. Marcus read over my shoulder. When he finished, he sat down heavily beside me. Well, he said, that was something. He sounds sincere. Does he? Or is this just another manipulation, another attempt to make us feel sorry for him? I don't know. And I didn't. The letter read as genuine, full of remorse and self-awareness and acknowledgement of what he'd done. But how could I trust my judgment anymore? I'd thought I knew Daniel. I'd thought I knew my own son, and I'd been catastrophically wrong. What do you want to do? Marcus asked. About what? About him. About this letter. About whether we ever respond or engage or anything. I thought about it. Really thought about it. Did I want contact with Daniel? Did I want to maintain some kind of relationship with the man who tried to kill us? Part of me, the mother part, the part that had rocked him to sleep and bandaged his scraped knees and cheered at his soccer games, wanted to say yes. Wanted to believe in redemption. Wanted to think that our son could change, could become someone better. But the rest of me, the part that still woke up with nightmares, that still flinched when people stood too close to me, that still carried the physical and emotional scars of what he'd done, that part said no. Protecting myself, protecting my healing, was more important than maintaining a relationship with my attempted murderer, even if that murderer was my son. I don't know, I said finally. I'm not ready to decide. Maybe I'll never be ready. That's okay, Marcus said. You don't have to decide now. You don't have to decide ever if you don't want to. What about you? What do you want? He was quiet for a long time. I think I'm done with him. He's my son, and some part of me will always care about him. But I can't have him in my life. I can't trust him. And I can't pretend that blood makes up for what he did. So we don't respond. Not now. Maybe not ever. I folded the letter carefully, put it back in its envelope, filed it away in a drawer. I didn't throw it out. I wasn't ready for that level of finality, but I didn't respond to it either. Daniel would have to find his redemption without us. Part 11. Moving Forward. 3 years after the cliff. Marcus and I were having breakfast on our deck, watching the sunrise over the ocean. It was our morning ritual now. Coffee, toast, the sound of waves, the cry of seagulls. I had the dream again last night, I said. Marcus looked at me. We didn't have to specify which dream. We both knew. The falling dream. The one where we were always at the edge of the cliff, always feeling the ground disappear, always knowing what was coming. How bad was it? Not as bad as usual. I woke up, but I fell back asleep after a few minutes. That's progress, right? That's progress. He reached across the table, took my hand. We're healing, Helen. Slowly, but we're healing. It was true. The nightmares were less frequent. The hypervigilance had decreased. We could hike again without panicking. We could stand near edges without freezing up. We were reclaiming our lives from the trauma Daniel had inflicted. "Do you ever think about him?" I asked. "Wonder how he's doing?" "Sometimes, but not as much as I used to." "You?" "Same. It's getting easier to think of him as someone from my past, someone I used to know." "That makes me sad," Marcus admitted, "but also relieved." "Is that terrible?" "No. I think it's survival. We can't live in the past. We can't stay connected to someone who tried to destroy us, even if that someone is our son." We sat in comfortable silence, drinking our coffee, watching the sun climb higher. My phone buzzed. A text from Lily. Yes, we'd changed our names, started fresh. The people in our new town knew us as Lily and Jack Thompson, a retired couple from the Midwest. Clean slate, new identities, a life unburdened by Daniel's crimes. The text was from our neighbor, asking if we wanted to come over for dinner that weekend. We'd been adopted by the community here, welcomed into book clubs and garden clubs and volunteer organizations. We had friends, routines, a life that felt safe and stable. "Dinner at the Johnsons Saturday?" I asked Marcus. "Sounds good. I'll bring that pie you made. They loved it last time." Normal conversation, normal plans, a normal life. It had taken 3 years, but we'd gotten here, to this place of peace. Part 12. The Call. 5 years after the cliff, I got a phone call. "Mrs. Morrison? This is Warden Sarah Fletcher from Millbrook Correctional Facility. I'm calling about your son, Daniel Morrison." My blood went cold. "What about him?" "He's been injured. A fight with another inmate. He's stable, but he's asking for you. For both of you." I looked at Marcus, who'd heard enough of the conversation to understand what was happening. "How badly is he injured?" I asked. "Stab wound to the abdomen. He required surgery, but the doctors expect a full recovery." "I see. Thank you for letting us know." "Mrs. Morrison, he really is asking for you. He says he needs to see you, that it's important." "I understand, but I need to discuss this with my husband. Can I call you back?" "Of course. But please know, visiting hours are limited, and given his condition, sooner would be better than later." After I hung up, Marcus and I looked at each other. "Well," he said, "that's unexpected. Do we go? Do we see him?" "I don't know. Do you want to?" I thought about it. 5 years. In that time, we'd rebuilt our lives, healed our wounds, found peace. Daniel had sent 3 more letters, which we'd read but never responded to. We'd kept tabs on him through our lawyer, knew he was taking classes, staying out of trouble, supposedly working on himself. But we'd kept our distance, maintained our boundaries, protected our healing. Going to see him would change that, would reopen wounds we'd worked so hard to close. But he'd been stabbed. He was hurt. And despite everything, despite what he'd done and who he'd become, some small part of me still saw him as my little boy. "I think we should go," I said quietly. "Not for him. For us. For closure, maybe. Or just to see who he is now." "Are you sure?" "No. But I think we need to do this. 5 years we've been carrying this. Maybe it's time to face it head on. One last time." Marcus nodded slowly. "Okay, we'll go. Together." Part 13. The Visit. Millbrook Correctional Facility was 3 states away. We made the drive in silence, both of us lost in our own thoughts. The prison was exactly what you'd imagine. High walls, barbed wire, guards with hard faces. We went through security, surrendered our phones and bags, submitted to searches, and then they led us to the infirmary. Daniel was in a bed by the window, his abdomen bandaged, an IV in his arm. He looked older. Of course he did. 5 years had passed. But it was more than that. He looked weathered, worn, like prison had aged him in dog years. He saw us, and his face crumpled. "Mom, Dad, you came." "We came," Marcus said, his voice neutral. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got stabbed." Daniel tried to smile, but it came out as a grimace. The doctors say I was lucky. The knife missed all the important organs. I'll be okay." "What happened?" I asked. "Wrong place, wrong time. Another inmate had a grudge against my cellmate. I got caught in the middle." He shifted in the bed, wincing. "But that's not why I asked you to come. I need to tell you something, and I thought, given what happened, that I might not get another chance." "We're listening," Marcus said. Daniel took a breath. "I've been doing a lot of therapy, a lot of work on myself, and I've come to understand something I need you to know." He looked at both of us, his eyes earnest. "What I did to you, pushing you off that cliff, it wasn't about the money, or the fear of going to prison. Those were factors, sure, but the real reason, the core of it, was that I blamed you for my unhappiness." "What?" I couldn't help the shock in my voice. "I spent my whole life trying to live up to your expectations, trying to be the successful son, the perfect child, and I was miserable. But instead of being honest with you about that, instead of telling you I didn't want the life I was building, I buried it. I put on a mask, and I lied. And when that lie started to unravel, when you discovered what I'd been doing, I blamed you. I told myself that you'd forced me into this life, that you'd created these impossible standards, and that you deserved what I was planning to do. Daniel, let me finish. Please." He swallowed hard. "It's taken 5 years and a lot of therapy, but I finally understand that none of that was true. You never forced me into anything. You never demanded perfection. You loved me and supported me and wanted me to be happy. All the pressure I felt, I put that on myself. All the lies I told, those were my choices. And what I did to you on that cliff, that was entirely on me." Tears were running down his face now. "I blamed you for my unhappiness because it was easier than taking responsibility for my own choices, and I almost killed you because I was too much of a coward to face the consequences of my actions. There's no excuse for that, no justification. I destroyed our family because I couldn't be honest, because I couldn't be brave." Marcus and I sat in stunned silence. In all the letters Daniel had written, in all the apologies he'd made, he'd never quite articulated it like this, never quite taken full responsibility. "Why are you telling us this now?" Marcus asked. "Because getting stabbed made me realize that life is short and fragile, and I might not get another chance to say this. I need you to know that I understand what I did. I need you to know that I don't blame you. And I need you to know that even though I've lost the right to be your son, even though I've destroyed any chance of a relationship with you, I'm proud of the work I've done on myself. I'm proud that I'm not that person anymore." "Who are you now?" I asked. "Someone trying to be better. Someone who counsels other inmates, helps them understand their own patterns of blame and avoidance before they make the same mistakes I did. Someone who's accepted that some things can't be fixed, but that doesn't mean you stop trying to do good." He looked at me with clear eyes. "I know I can't undo what I did. I know we'll never have a normal parent-child relationship. I know I'll probably never hear from you again after today. But I want you to live your lives without guilt, without wondering if you could have done something differently to prevent what I did. You were good parents, great parents. I was just a son who made catastrophically bad choices." I found myself crying. Not for the son I'd lost. I'd grieved that loss already. But for the man in front of me who'd somehow found wisdom in the consequences of his actions. "Thank you," I said quietly, "for saying that. I mean it, every word." Marcus reached out, hesitated, then touched Daniel's hand. "Just for a moment. I hope you continue to grow, to become the person you're trying to be." "Me too." We visited for another hour, talked about his classes, his work with other inmates, his plans for when he eventually got out. It was strange, not quite comfortable, but not as painful as I'd feared. When it was time to leave, Daniel looked at us one more time. "I love you both. I know I lost the right to say that, but it's still true." "We know," I said. And I did. Despite everything, despite the horror and the betrayal, I believed him. We left the prison and drove home in silence. How do you feel? Marcus asked when we were halfway there. Lighter, I said. Sad, but lighter. Like I just set down a burden I didn't realize I was still carrying. Yeah, me too. Do you think we'll see him again? After today? Marcus thought about it. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe in another 5 years we'll feel ready for another conversation. Or maybe this was it, our final goodbye. I'm okay with either, I realized. I'm okay with seeing him again someday if we want to. And I'm okay with never seeing him again. It's our choice now, on our terms. That feels right, Marcus agreed. Epilogue. 7 years later. 7 years after the cliff, Marcus and I stood at the edge of Raven's Peak. We'd avoided it for years, couldn't even drive past the exit without our hearts racing. But Dr. Wong had suggested eventually that facing it might be the final step in our healing. You can't let fear control you forever, she'd said. Sometimes the only way through trauma is to confront it directly, to prove to yourself that you survived, that you're strong, that you've moved forward. So here we were, at the place where our son had tried to kill us, at the place where we'd fallen and survived and lost everything and gained ourselves. It's still beautiful, I said, looking out at the view. Mountains and valleys and sky stretching to infinity. It is, Marcus agreed. I'd forgotten that. We stood at the edge, carefully, not too close, and felt the wind on our faces. How do you feel? Marcus asked. I considered the question, checked in with my body, my emotions, expected fear, trauma, flashbacks. But what I felt was peace. I feel okay, I said, surprised. I feel like we survived this, like it's part of our story, but it doesn't define us anymore. Yeah. Marcus put his arm around my shoulders. We're more than what happened to us. We stayed for a little while longer, reclaiming the space, taking back the narrative. This wasn't the place where we almost died anymore. This was the place where we chose to live. Before we left, I took a photo. Proof that we'd come back, that we'd faced it, that we'd won. As we walked back to the car, my phone buzzed, a text from Daniel. He sent one every year on this day, the anniversary of the cliff. Always short, always respectful of our boundaries. This year's message. Thinking of you both today. Grateful you survived. Proud of the lives you've built. Love, D. I showed it to Marcus. Do you want to respond? He asked. I thought about it. About the complicated tangle of emotions Daniel represented. The grief and the anger and the slowly healing wounds. The son we'd lost and the man he'd become. And the relationship that could never be what it once was but might, someday, be something new. Yes, I decided. I think I do. I typed out a response. Thank you. We're okay. We hope you are too. Simple, honest, leaving the door open but not throwing it wide. Marcus read it and nodded. That works. I hit send. We drove away from Raven's Peak, heading home to our coastal cottage, our rebuilt lives, our hard-won peace. Behind us, the mountains stood indifferent and eternal. Ahead of us, the road stretched open and full of possibility. We'd survived attempted murder. We'd survived betrayal. We'd survived the loss of our son and the destruction of our family. And now, we were more than survivors. We were people who'd chosen to live, to heal, to build something beautiful from the wreckage. That was enough. That was everything.